Let me jump over to story. Okay. A lot of this story stuff, you guys, I learned from Dagan Smith. I will give him 100% credit. Okay. So my story always starts at a point of high drama, like we talked about earlier with email sequencing. Then from there, I share my backstory and I talk about the wall I hit, okay, which is usually the same wall they're at right now. Okay, look at where's my audience right now. They're stuck because they're broke. They're stuck because they can't make money. They're stuck because they're having nerve pain. Whatever that is, this is the wall they're stuck at. So I take them to this wall, and then from there, identify their problem. Look, you got the same problem I had. Okay, the problem is that blah, 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 blah. And then something happened. Okay, now for me, there's two directions I go with, and it depends on what actually happened in my story. One, I either had a big epiphany, like, wow, this is what I should do instead. Okay. Or the second one is like Declaration of Independence. That's when I woke up one day and said, enough is enough. I've got to change. I got to figure it out today. Okay. So either I'm going the epiphany angle or the Declaration of Independence angle. Either one of those works. Okay. Whichever one fits better for your story. Then from there, so I declare my independence, or I shared my epiphany, and I want to share with you the path that I went on to find my ultimate solution. So here's the path. I tried this, and I tested this, and I worked on this, and I figured out all these kind of things, and nothing was working, and all of a sudden, boom, I had my first sign of success. I remember jumping on that scale and seeing the pounds starting to melt off. Or I remember the very first time I got a commission and how it changed my life. I remember the first time the nerve pain went away, right? Whatever the first sign of success is. And then you step back and you say, and that's when I realized that it wasn't my fault. Okay, this is the portion, you guys, where, remember we talked about from the Inception script about confirming their suspicions, or excuse me, what was the actual terminology? Yeah, justify their failures. So here's where I start justifying my failures, right? So that's when I realized that it wasn't me that was it wasn't my fault that I was fat. And it's not your fault either. It's the what? Conspiracy theory, right? It's the government. It's the gurus. It's the weight loss things. It's the someone, right? I'm blaming there's some conspiracy behind this, right? Everyone's got this thing. We talked about in Inception, we talked about confirming suspicions. Everyone's got these suspicions that something else is holding him back. So all I'm doing is I'm justifying their failures, confirming their suspicions that there's some conspiracy happening, and there's a big, huge lie, and this is not your fault. You've got to understand it's not your fault that you're broke, you're overweight, that you're in pain, that you're unhappy, that you're whatever it is you're selling, right? You got to understand this is not your fault, you guys. Whose fault is it? Boom. You got to determine a common enemy. It's the guru. It's the drug companies. It's the magazine publishers. It's the traffic guys. It's the whoever, right? You got to blame someone. It's Facebook. It's Google. It's whoever the common enemy is, right? Again, this comes back down to deception. We talked about throwing rocks at our enemies. This is where we're throwing rocks at our common enemies. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have ever studied like cults. I don't want to ever start a cult, but there's some books out there about starting cults. It's really interesting because this is one of the core things in starting a cult is defining a common enemy. So who's the common enemy for your audience? Because you want to define that. And obviously we don't want to start our own cults, but if you want a cult-like following of people buying your stuff, you got to define a common enemy and throw rocks at them. Blame them. It's their fault that all these bad things are happening. Okay, and then after you realize it was the big bad guru or the drug company or whatever, you kept doing stuff, and all of a sudden you started seeing this rapid growth. You went from little to big, and all these great things were happening, and all of a sudden you got it. Like you were free. You had this awesome stuff happening. But it wasn't just you. It happened to other people as well. Okay, here's a case study how it worked for this person and this person. And here's 3 other people this also worked for. So it wasn't just me. It's working for everybody I showed it to as well. And now what I didn't understand when I first got started, I understood the benefits would be that I would feel better, I would make more money, whatever. But the hidden benefits that have happened that have just been this pleasant surprise is this and this and this and this. All these hidden benefits that came from it, right? Okay, so there's the story part of our sales letter. So we got star, story. Now we've got to introduce our solution. So the solution, this is where we first start our formal introduction. And that's why I created my product. Boom, I'm formally introducing my product to you. Now, as soon as I introduce this product, usually there's always gonna be like this initial letdown in someone's mind, like, oh, that's all it is. It's gonna be an ebook. Oh, it's just gonna be some software, whatever. There's this kind of drop here. And so here, immediately after I introduce it, I gotta come back and be like, look, to create this thing, it was a pain in the butt. It was not easy. I spent countless days and months and weeks in doing this. It cost me a ton of money. I had to hire programmers, developers, and I had to travel the world, and all the pain, all the costs I had to figure out to get this. And all of a sudden, like, wow, that actually is pretty cool. I don't want to do it. but then you transition from the pain and cost it took you to the ease and the speed that they're going to get because of it. Okay, but it was totally worth it, because now for everyone else who uses this, it's so much easier for them. They don't have the pain I had to have. Okay, and it's so much faster. They're able to get started today with what took me months or even a year to complete. They can get it done almost instantly. Okay, so I introduce ease and speed. Then I transition over to my SO benefits. Okay, a SO benefit, a lot of times you guys, people will share a benefit. Like one of the benefits is that my skin got clearer. Okay, that's a benefit. A SO benefit is my skin got clearer, so now I can actually look in the mirror with a smile on my face. Okay, a benefit is my car went fast. A SO benefit is my car went fast, so now I can go and pick up chicks or whatever it is, right? So the SO is the key. Whenever I share benefits, I attach a SO to it, and now I can say why that is, and that's the key to benefit. You guys, people always like drop benefits and they don't give the SO behind it, and it just ruins it. So there's your SO benefits, right? Then we drop down social proof. Here's other people it's working for. Here's my special offer for you. I'm going to show you how to do all this stuff during my training course. It's going to be awesome. And then it's going to be really, really expensive, right? And then we drop price down. So it's, you know, if you do self, it's going to cost 10 grand, but it's not going to be 10. It's not going to be 5, not going to be 4, not going to be 3. And then boom, we show a fake price. It's going to be whatever, you know, $5,000, right? Fake price. And that's what after I share the fake price, and this is key, you guys, and we'll share this also in the webinar section. I share the fake price, then I come over and say, look, you know and I know I'm not going to charge you 5 grand for this, but I want to ask you a question. If all this did was help you to something that added pleasure to life, all this did was help you to finally live in the house of your dreams, would it be worth it? If all this did was help you to look better in your swimming suit, would it be worth it? Yeah, I think it would. And then if all this did was help you to fire your boss, would it be worth it? If all this did was help you to stop having people laugh at you behind your back, would it be worth it? Okay. One thing you got to understand, you guys, is all of us, we make our choices based on either moving towards pleasure or away from pain. And your audience is going to have different motivation points. So what I want to do is I want to take the big price, right? The big price that I give somebody, and I need to justify that. So I need to say, you know, if all statements are magic. So if all this did was this, would it be worth it? And I need to attach one of those things, at least one to pleasure and one to pain. Okay, so if all this did was help you to gain more pleasure, would it be worth it? If all this did was take away your pain, would it be more worth it? And then boom, now we drop down to, well, don't worry, I'm not going to charge you 5 grand. I'm only going to charge you 3 grand. Or I'm only going to charge you 1,000, or I'm only going to charge you 500 bucks. So I reveal the actual price. Then I switch to my guarantee, which is going to be my logic close. So right here, the if alls, this is my emotional close. Then guarantee is my logical close. Then I got to inject scarcity. So you guys got to act fast, because this is not going to be available forever. This is my fear close. Then I do my future pacing again, like I shared with you on the other script. Just imagine what life's going to be like when you have this. Here's the call to action. Now, post-selling is what, after somebody's bought, usually people are still watching the video, but I say, look, for those of you guys who are already buying and are already signing up, I want to talk to you guys for a minute, because you're going to be in the members area in a minute, and what you're going to find is this, and what you're going to see is this. I start talking to the people who've already bought, and by doing this post-selling, it gets people realizing that other people are buying and they're not, and it makes them want to buy even more. Then I do some takeaway selling. Takeaway selling is basically saying, warning, you need to understand that this is not going to be available forever. Okay, guys, this is here now. It's not going to be here tomorrow. One of my favorite takeaway pitches is you guys understand, like, I've already lost the weight. This product's not for me. Okay, I feel great right now. I'm healthy right now. I'm making money right now. Whatever your product is, right? This is already working for me. This is not about me. This is about you right now. Okay. Tomorrow I'm gonna wake up in the morning. I'm gonna feel great no matter what. But you're gonna wake up and still be overweight unless you take my product. Okay. So I'm kind of doing this takeaway sell, like putting it back on them. And so do that, and then we close the reminder. So you guys remember, this offer is available right now. You're gonna get this, and this. And click on the button now, and we'll see you on the next page. Boom. So there's the star, the story, and the solution. I know that right there, you guys, is like a copywriting course. Again, I could spend a whole week teaching. Went through it really, really quick. But when you start writing a sales video, this is it. Pull out this thing and start from step 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how I write my scripts. I literally have these printed out, and I just write my sales letters and sales videos this way. You take someone through that journey, and boom, at the end of it, you've got an offer that's going to convert. Is that awesome, you guys? Dave just gave me a wow. Thank you very much. This, like, literally, guys, will save you guys probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years of trial and error. Just use this as a guide to go through. Awesome. Okay, so there are our front end funnels, right? Free plus shipping, self-liquidating offers. Okay. Now we start moving up the value ladder. So now we've got some of these people who bought free stuff. They maybe upsold a $197 product. They bought SLO. So they're getting value. Now we're going to start sending them up the value ladder. So we do that through these 3 funnels here: perfect webinar, invisible funnel, and product launch funnels. Okay. Now, I don't want to go. I can't go into tons of detail on all these scripts as much as I did those other ones, just because we'll be here for months. But I want to kind of go through these as well. So the perfect webinar funnel. This is where it's a free webinar. People are not paying for it. They come on a webinar and you're going to sell them something during it. Okay. So this is typically the sales funnel for a webinar. There's a registration page. After they register, it's taken to a confirmation page. It tells them the date and the time. And then during that date, they jump on the webinar and they listen to you live selling something. And at the end of it, they buy something. So there's the sales funnel for a webinar. Now, if you're in an automated webinar where you pre-record it, this is what the automated webinar funnel looks like. They register. If they decide to watch the replay right now, they can watch it right now. If they don't, they go to the same confirmation page and they show up at the time of the webinar. They get a webinar email, and then at the end of it, you sell them the product. Now, the cool thing about automated webinars, you can do some really cool email sequencing where you can say email number 1, send out, you can segment people. So anybody who subscribes to the webinar, send this email sequence. If they show up to the webinar and they stay for the whole thing, send this email sequence. But if they leave before I pitch the product, send this email sequence. And if they don't show up, then send this email sequence. Okay, so this starts getting into some more advanced funnel stuff, like what are the sequences and where do we put people and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to kind of give you guys a hint of how exciting and how big some of these funnel things we're talking about can get. So this is what they look like for a typical automated webinar funnel. All right, so the perfect webinar script, again, guys, this is something I could go over for hours, but this is kind of what it looks like. Okay, and I'll go through it really, really quickly. Usually there's 3 parts of a webinar. There's the intro, there's the content, and then there's the pitch, the close. So the intro, again, we start with a bold promise. We give them a hook to the end, something about, if you stay on the end of this webinar, I'm going to give you this cool prize or this bonus or whatever. We command attention. We tell them to put away Skype or Facebook. We try to get their attention. We qualify ourselves on why we're an expert, why they should listen to us. We future pace them about what's going to happen if they consume this webinar and gain from it. Future pace them, right? Then we jump into the content of the webinar. Most people, when they do their webinars, they're trying to teach people 5 or 6 or 7 things. For a webinar to work really, really well, same thing we talked about in all the other scripts, you guys. You got to focus on one thing. What's the one core message that you need to get your audience to believe, to buy what it is you're selling? Okay, and then everything else wraps around that. So for us, we pick one core thing. Okay, and usually this one core thing is we tie it to a headline that says "How to blank without blank." If you can fit that, if you can fit your thing you're selling into that little framework, it works. Okay, for example, one of our recent webinars was high ticket secrets. It was how to sell high ticket products without picking up the phone. How to do what without what. Okay, that's the one thing. And then I go and I share secrets that aren't separate secrets. They're secrets that strengthen the one thing, the one core argument. Okay, and each of these secrets is to break and rebuild their pattern. So if my one thing again is about how to sell high ticket things without selling on a phone, secret number 1 is probably gonna be something. It's a pattern they already have, or it's a belief they have in their mind. Okay, they believe right now that to sell high ticket things they have to be on the phone. Secret number 1: here's how I do it without a phone. Okay, and I'm going to share them the secret, and I'm going to, in that process, break their belief that they have to have the phone, and I'm going to rebuild it with the truth that I want them to understand and believe. Okay, secret number 2 is maybe I can do that, but it's going to take a lot of traffic. So secret number 2 is how to do this with almost no traffic. I got to break their belief and then rebuild their belief patterns to what I need them to believe to buy my thing. And secret number 3 is the same thing. Okay, so I'm finding out what their belief patterns are that are keeping them from buying my thing. I show them the pattern, I break it, and I rebuild it with what I need them to believe. Okay, that's the content section of your webinar. Then from there, we transition. I say, let me ask you a question. I just showed you some cool stuff, but how would you like for me to help you do this? And then we transition to our close. And again, I could spend days on this close. I'm not going to go through it in a whole, but just to kind of give you, a really quick rundown. The first thing we do, the overall close process is what I call a stack. I learned this from a guy named Armin Morn. The stack has literally made me at least $10 million in the last 5 or 6 years. It's how I do every one of my presentations. What it does is basically when I'm sharing my offer, I share, here's component number 1, and I talk about it. And here's component number 2. But you notice if I stack them, I share component number 3, and I stack them again. Component number 4, stack them. So if you ever look at my presentations, you'll notice that in fact, it's almost humorous sometimes. Like, the first thing you're going to get is this. That means blah, 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 blah. So that means the first thing you're going to get is this, and then here's the second number thing. And I keep retelling this. So by the time I get to the end, you've heard me stack all the components of the offer like 10 times. But what we found is if you don't do it that way, people only remember the last bonus or last thing you told them. And so they're justifying the price of what you're selling based on the last thing you told them. And so you want, before you tell them any kind of price, you want them to see the entire offer, everything they're getting in a huge stack. That's why we call it the stack. Okay, and then we pitch it high. We do our if-all statements just like I showed you guys in the last script. We do price high, drop price low, and we have our call to action. Okay, then throughout the stack, there's a bunch of different closes, and I'm not going to go through these right now, but these are a bunch of different closes we use. I'll drop 1 or 2 or 3. Well, I'll probably drop, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 of these different closes throughout this whole process. And if you Google most of these, you can find them. Some of these are mine. Some of them I learned from other stage presenters. Some I learned from a lot of different people. But if you Google some of these, you'll find out what these closes are. We also have a product at perfectwebinar.com that I go into a lot more detail about this. So that's kind of how we do a webinar pitch. All right, so that's the regular webinar. Now this is an invisible funnel webinar. So the last webinar is a free webinar. Somebody shows up to, you teach for an hour, 90 minutes, and you sell them something, right? It's a free webinar. That model came from kind of the old world seminar speakers, right? Somebody would go to a hotel room, they get a big audience to come, and they would teach about real estate investing, and they would talk about real estate investing, and at the end of it, boom, they would sell their real estate course. Okay, I'm sure you guys have been to some of those events. If not, they're really fun. But that's where it came from. And it's just replicated. Now we're using that model online through the perfect webinar. Okay, now this is called invisible funnel webinar. And this is a different type of webinar. The way this funnel works, it's really cool. So somebody comes to the registration page, and you have to kind of sell them. So I have a script that goes with this, but you're selling them on why they should register for your webinar. And the webinar is going to be free. They just put in their credit card. Then after the webinar is over, then you bill their credit card. So they get a chance to come in and test you out for free. See if you're any good. Okay, it kind of comes back to what I talked about earlier with my audience's primary question, right? They're always saying, well, if this is so good, why don't you let me come on and I'll pay you after? So that's kind of what the invisible funnel does. And this is a concept that was initially invented by one of my friends, Dagan Smith. And man, it works awesome. The first time we did this, I can't even tell you how good it was. Basically, someone would come to this page, they watch the video, they put in their credit card, they show up for a webinar, and the webinar ended up being 3 or 4 hours long. And at the end of the webinar, I asked them if they wanted to pay for it. If they did, we billed their credit card. If they didn't, then we didn't. And then at the end of it, we had somebody apply for coaching. We kind of ascended them up. So that's kind of the model for the invisible funnel. All right. So this kind of webinar, again, it's a paid webinar, so it's a little bit different, but it's very effective at moving somebody up the value ladder. Okay. All right. So the invisible funnel scripts. The first one is, what is the script we put on this video right here? And the second is, what's the script we use here during this actual webinar? Okay. So the first script I call the magic bullet script. So somebody comes to the page, and there's some things that are similar, right? First thing is I raise questions. Okay. Like, hey, have you ever, like, in fact, we built an invisible funnel in the dating niche, and it was kind of a fun one. So like the whole thing was like, have you ever wondered why all the other guys get pretty looking girls and you don't? Blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm going to show you how, so I wrote some questions that were in their head. Then I introduced the magic bullet. Okay. I'm going to show you how you can get a girlfriend this weekend, even if you've never dared talk to a girl ever before in the past. Okay. Introduce the magic bullet. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. Okay. My name is, and the person we did the dating one for was this guy who's overweight. He's not that attractive. And the big pitch is like, man, I am an ugly, overweight guy, and I still get good-looking girls. So I'm introducing myself, and he says, basically, points out your frustrations. I was just like you. I struggled with the same kind of stuff that you're struggling with, until I found my magic bullet. And I found it this way where I can literally get any girl in a day, and it's awesome. So I'm gonna do a webinar that's gonna be awesome. And you're going to be able to come on this webinar. I'm going to show you. Today's Thursday. Come on this webinar. I'm going to show you how to get a girlfriend this weekend. It's going to be awesome.